Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakdown Podcast YouTube channel. My name's Corey, and with me once again to help break down the latest episode of Superman and Lois, it's Vic.
What's going on? How's everybody doing today?
Before we do start, we do want to let you know we do have a show that we do live every Tuesday. That's at 7 p.m. Easternish. Easternish, it's actually 7 p.m.ish Eastern. On twitch.tv/MillerKing_51. You can find the link in the description down below. And also, if you can't watch us live, you can check out the podcast on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. And before you go, we do hope you hit the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up, because that does help us out. So, Vic, without further ado,
yes, sir.
Let's break it down.
So this week's episode of Superman and Lois, tried and true. This is a very multifaceted episode. There was a lot going on, but not a lot done, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
I agree. I agree. We said a couple weeks ago where episodes 6, 7, and 8 usually in the season, which is about midway through, they tend to just give you a lot of stuff that leads to nothing. It's pointless. It's just filler, because they know the beginning and the end of the story, but they just have to throw stuff in the middle just to make this, to fill the episodes of the season. And this is what we have here. I thought maybe last week we were starting to go to ramp up a little bit towards the end of the season, but this episode to me was not that great, and I think it actually backtracked on things. We get a little bit of, what happened with Bizarro before he came here. So we find that out.
Which is really interesting that we literally just had the conversation last week that it made no sense that he came through the planet to get to our world, and then this at the beginning of this episode, the cold open for this episode, shows him preparing to leave Bizarro Smallville with his Bizarro house, and then he just flies up into the air and then goes into the mines. And because he got a hold of Allie's pendant, he's able to get through the dimensional. I don't know. It still didn't really answer the question. It just showed us what we already knew was the situation. It's just weird.
Yeah, I thought it was just me. I was really hoping you could have explained what the hell happened, because I still didn't understand how flying up all the way into space and going right into the core of his Smallville brought him to the other side. It doesn't make
what
any
it came
sense
down to is I was actually right last week when I said that pendant that he has, if he uses it, that it was linking him to Superman. And then he just goes and steals it off of Allie and takes off with it. I'm like, well, if it was that easy, why didn't you do it before? Why did you let her get to this point?
Yeah.
Because he literally just kind of walks in, beats the crap out of all of her guys, and then walks out with it. But the only thing I can figure is him. It's kind of like the whole thing with the Flash. If he runs fast enough, he can, break the time-space barrier. So I'm assuming that this had something to do with that. But as to why he's able to go through the mountain and come out the other side in another dimension, it really doesn't give you any explanation. It's just he just did it. That's what happened. You're Superman. You're Superman. You're invincible. But you needed to put on a suit in order to accomplish this. One. I did like the fact that they kind of played on the, hey, you're the exact opposite of me, and he huffed green kryptonite. Did you notice that?
No.
At the beginning of it, he huffed a big thing of green kryptonite right before he took off, because obviously, green kryptonite is something that weakens our Superman, but apparently green kryptonite is kryptonite is like a steroid for Bizarro. So yeah, which they still have not called him Bizarro yet, which is just weird. They just keep saying Bizarro like crazy.
Clark in one scene says there's something bizarre about him. Yeah, it's like, oh my god, seriously. that is literally the only thing that is really helped move this story along. Yeah, we'll get to Superman and his arc at the end of the video, which kind of contradicts what I just said about them moving the story forward, because that kind of does. But those are the only two things. Everything else is kind of blah. Let's start out with the worst of it all. And for me, the thing I care the least about now, and that is Lana and her husband's problems. We saw at the end of last episode, they hit at the quinceanera. We had the issue where she found out that he had been with the bartender from the other town. And in this episode, there's still tension in the house. Afterwards, the youngest daughter apparently has no clue, which is perfectly fine. What's going on?
The other part is like, all right, so you slap the little girl at the table and you make her cry for her daddy to pull on our heartstrings, but you've literally ignored the kid for 90% of the show. So like, I have no feelings for this kid whatsoever. Like the fact that she's
Yeah.
missing her dad, I'm like, well, we haven't seen you in like 2 episodes. And before that, it was like a month before we saw you, and before that, we saw you like twice. So like, I don't care about
Yeah.
you whatsoever. And they
Yeah, we
don't
kind
do
of forgot.
anything. They don't do anything to like include her in the portions of the story that would make sense. So after they're sitting at the table, and the little girl asks about her dad if he's coming back. She's like, I don't know. And then obviously, Sarah is like, I'm done. Like I don't care. Like this is stupid. Like he lied to us all this time. Blah blah blah. Like she's taking it the hardest, obviously. Aside from Lana, who's trying to be strong for her daughters, which I understand. But then at like a really nice point in this story, like one of the things I was like, oh, that's nice. Like I actually felt something for that was when she started to walk away and then she ran back up and she hugged Lana and Lana started crying. I'm like, oh, that was a pretty, not poignant, but like it was a sweet moment for that group, for that storyline. And the little girl didn't do anything. I was like, you could at least come over and hug your mom with your sister and like be involved.
Was she even in the room at that
yes,
point?
she was sitting at the table. And,
I
like,
thought she had left.
she
at that
told her
point.
to go get her ready for school, but like when she turned around and came back, like she should have turned around and come back with her sister. Like they should have started to walk out the room and then both turned around and hugged their mom, like Sarah did, because obviously there is a strong relationship between the older daughter and the mom. But the younger daughter has nothing to do with anything unless they absolutely need her to like prove a point that there's another kid, or they want to like tug on your heartstrings. Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
it's gross. But we get through that point.
She ends up later on in the episode meeting with Clark and talking to him because he had reached out at the beginning of the episode. If you need anything, let me know.
Right.
And so she reaches out.
Hold on. By the way, not by his own behest, but because Lois was like, you should probably go talk to her. She could use her best friend right now. I'm like, Clark didn't even care.
He's like, I got my own shit going on,
He's like, did you forget about the Killer Superman clone that's running around here? I don't got time for her stuff.
I think we got bigger issues with another one that looks like me that I won't call Bizarro, and that dealing. So so he shows up. They're at the diner, and she's talking to her. And she's like, she's like, what would you do if Lois shit on you? Oh well, I'd have to evaluate things and see the reason why and all this stuff. So he has to go to the game, right?
Mm.
He goes to the game. She gets, and it looks like it's daytime out. I don't know if I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bad judgment of what time this is, but it looks like it's daytime. So she goes to the bar where the bartender just happens to be on working that day.
Oh no! You forgot. You missed the. She talked to Kyle first, didn't she? Because Kyle came over to the house and asked her how was it? Am I thinking that out of order? I'm pretty sure he came over first and she talked to him, and then she went over to the bar to talk to him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he came over and tried to talk to her, and she said it's not good right now. So
he's like, I've loved you forever. I wouldn't do anything.
Shit we've seen.
Blah.
It's the same stuff we've seen in several other scenes.
He's like, has she ever been in this house? He's like, once. I'm like, oh, that's bold.
Yeah. So then she goes to see the bartender and asks her a bunch of questions and finds out that he cut it up. He stopped it with her once they had issues with the daughter, which was a couple of years ago. And so now she's mad.
Well, yeah, she's mad because if the daughter hadn't have gone into that severe depression and had issues, would he have stopped the relationship at that point?
Yeah, well,
like that's the big question that she has.
We find that out in the final scene when she finally goes to him. she's like, would you have stopped it? And I'm like, oh, that's what she was mad about.
The second she said it, I was like, oh, that's that.
But here's the thing. It could have been a situation like where he was doing it. He thought everything was fine, but then something happens and it made him go, "What the fuck am I doing?"
But
my head is in the wrong place. And he could have had that come to Jesus moment and been like, "Okay, I'm gonna straighten my shit out." And
sure,
yes, you could look at that. Well, what if? But let's be honest. You're only setting yourself up for judgment in terms of saying, well, what if that hadn't happened? Well, okay, you're going to take it down the negative route. I'm going to take it down the positive route. There's no point in saying what if.
Correct.
We don't truly know.
But I think that the point that they're trying to put forward is the incident that caused him to stop was when she tried to hurt herself. They had been going through those issues with her for a while before that happened. And that's what cut him off, was when she tried to hurt herself. So all of that time that as a family they were trying to deal with her depression and her issues, he was sleeping with the bartender. But then when the daughter took it to the worst possible conclusion, or tried to, that's when he decided, my family is more important than this affair. And that's what Lana's mad about. Like, it wasn't the fact that, like, I think she was like, okay, you had an affair, we can figure this out. But when he came to her and he's like, you were my number one thought the whole time. I did something stupid. Please forgive me. I think she was like, all right, whatever. But then you come to find out that it wasn't his guilt or, like, fear of losing her that caused him to stop. It was the fact that he had something he could not ignore happen that caused him to stop.
The thing I find hardest to believe is the fact that your daughter's going through that and you still have
time,
the thought process to even want to, do this.
Yeah. I could see him going to the bar and getting drunk because he's having a hard time dealing with the fact that his daughter's going through all of this, but then taking it to that extent that you're like, okay, so dude, you can't get your way out. It's like the only thing you can do is walk in, prostrate yourself in front of the family and be like, I fucked up, I'm stupid, I'm sorry. And then on top of it, like, the other part is he didn't tell her before she found out on her own. Like, if he had have brought this to her, I was having a hard time with what was going on with Sarah. I did something really dumb. Like, after he ended it, he didn't tell her that it was over and that he ended it. He just let it linger until it became an issue. Like, if she had have already known about this, then it wouldn't have been a problem. Well, it still would have been a problem because the kid would have found out about it. But, like, at least Lois wouldn't be. He'd be past this point right now. So,
the thing I have, the problem I have with what's going on with this storyline is the fact that we couldn't have one normal family in this town. I mean, the families that we're focused on are Lois and Clark's family, and Lana's family. There aren't any other families that are featured.
But if you have just a normal family, then what's the point of having that storyline?
Just to have a normal family, just one normal family.
I don't think that's interesting in a story.
You can't call Lois and Clark normal because, well, he's an alien and kids are half alien. So that gives you Lana and their family, and now you just got this dysfunction. It's like,
well, I mean, if you really think about it, there is one normal family, and that's the one woman and her husband and the daughter that got turned into the super people. I can't remember what her name is. The Asian lady. I can't think of her name right now. They're the normal family in town. It's a mom and a dad and a daughter, and they're doing their thing.
Are they still in town?
They're there when it's necessary to move the story along. Like, hey, I just found out he's spying on you. Bye, and I haven't seen her since.
Yeah, needless to say, I hate this storyline.
Sure.
And
so
I hope they wrap
since
it up
you hate it, let's move on.
We're gonna move on to the brothers and another storyline I don't care about.
The Fraternals.
Now, is that a thing in the comics? I was gonna look it up, but I wasn't sure.
It's just them playing on the Eternals.
I hope so.
A super team called the Fraternals. because we're twins and we're fraternal. We have
No, they're the Wonder
superpowers.
Twins. They're going to be the Wonder Twins.
Right? No, because well, I guess that's true. They can't be identical if it's a boy. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a little difficult.
It's ridiculous.
But anyhow, we said previously that once he started doing the
XK.
XK, yeah, that it was going to end up leading to him getting the starting quarterback role, which he got this episode, which we knew would end up leading to something big during a game, which it did, which it would learn that his brother would end up finding out and be bad, which it did. I mean, we call this. So this, to me, this whole storyline was,
our entire episode,
like,
last episode, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. But the entire last episode literally was us giving predictions about what was going to happen. And this episode, all of it has happened.
Like, and no, we do not get screeners.
Yeah, it's
CW
completely
does not like us.
So they challenge us every time we post anything
because they want to give us copyright strikes every time.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. Like they're very. This show is very quick about not leaving things lingering, and that's actually one of the bright spots about the show. Is they don't just like, oh, he's doing XK, and then they don't do anything about it for like 3 episodes, and they're like, oh, by the way, don't forget he's on XK.
Did you forget about this?
Yeah, they kind of play it like they're like, here's what's going on, and they continue on with the story right away, which I like that about it. Kudos to you, CW, for that. But like you said, he finds the inhaler, and he's like, hey, what's this? And he's like, oh, it's my girlfriend. She's got asthma. It's like, damn, this kid's a quick liar.
Okay, yeah, like she's got asthma. She uses they come in glass jars,
right?
That have no labels. Yeah, that was dumb. His suspicion was started there, and then during the game he finds out. Actually, it was afterwards. Somebody tells him that there were some people that, the kid that was supposed to get the starting job actually is in trouble because of doing it, and that's what leads Jordan to go, oh no.
Right.
Or is it Jonathan?
No, it's Jordan. Jordan comes in after the game to congratulate his brother. At that point, he didn't really have a whole lot of, clues that he was doping, basically. And he walks in as the girlfriend, who I was like, oh, maybe she's chilled out, and then she becomes a drug dealer. And then I'm like, oh, well, she's supplying her boyfriend who wants, to get the quarterback spot. I was like, she's moved right back into the same spot she was in at the beginning of this when she was trying to find out all the information to stay on top. Now she's the head cheerleader. She took the one girl's job and she became like this weirdo that's causing problems. And then she walks in and she's like, oh yeah, he got in trouble. His mom found out what he was doing. It's like, really? So she's like, everything went according to plan. She told on the kid for doping. Like, she made sure he got busted somehow and couldn't play. And because he couldn't play, his mom wouldn't let him play. Notice she didn't tell the school. And the school didn't discipline him. He got disciplined for getting in trouble. And then she's like, yeah, everything went according to plan. So she set this whole thing up so that he would get to play in this big game. He would get to quarterback the big game. And he get to show off all of his abilities. And meanwhile, she's going to reap the benefits because she's like, yeah, I'm the bigwigs in town. He's part of the most well-known family in town. He's going to be the captain of the quarterback. He's going to be the quarterback of the team if I have anything to do with it. Oh, by the way, I parked my car in a dark spot outside, and she's going to trap him if she can. It's basically what's going on here. This is a tale as old as time, as they would say. But the bad part is Jordan walked in right as she was saying all of this, and he now knows what his brother's been doing. And, of course, this is not going to end well.
No, it won't. And they end up going back home, and they start to have a talk, but they don't want to. But he does ask the one question, how did you find out? And then he tells him, so now he's got that information.
Yeah.
Which will lead into next episode and probably something stupid that we don't care about. Moving along, we have Lois and her sister in that storyline.
Yeah.
I gotta say, from the moment she saw the pictures of the boys,
Yeah.
of the, I was sus. She was sus because uh, it was a complete 180 in her
Attitude.
uh, personality. Yeah,
Yeah.
and considering how much she hated Lois in the last episode
Mm.
and had this attitude, and for her to just flip a switch like that, and then continued it on through the entire episode, made no sense.
So I was like, as soon as he pulled up, he's like, "Hey, I'm glad you're not. I'm glad you're the only one here." And he's like, "Why?" He's like, "Because we need to have a talk." And then the sister gets out of the car. I'm like, "Why?" Like, how does that even compute? Like, why would she have gotten in her car with her dad to do this? Like, and if he's kidnapped her, okay, that's a whole situation we need to discuss later. But like, he brought
She
her
was there on
there.
her accord.
Yeah, he brought her there, and I'm like, okay, so you humiliated your sister. You distinctly basically told her to go to hell. I never want to talk to you again. The last time you talked to her, and now you're at her house. Okay, dad wants to mend fences. Okay, lays down a decree. You will not talk about Allie Alston while you were here today. You are going to like get along. I'm tired of this. I don't want to, end my retirement with my girls never talking to each other. So I get it. It's just this whole thing of him wanting them to, to bury the hatchet. So they
And
basically
as
spend.
an aside,
Yeah.
I was glad to see him talking this way because this is something we haven't seen out of him the entire series, and something I've
True.
been kind of missing because I don't know if you've ever watched the show Nip Tuck that used to be on FX years ago.
Yeah.
He was the lead on that, so not being able to actually see him come out, and give fatherly, you know, talking to,
Yeah.
I kind of missed it. So
The
I was kind of glad to see that.
Yeah, but then he just kind of faded out. Like you didn't see him
Well,
really
yeah,
the
he was
entire time because the
because it
whole
was
idea was about him just getting them back together. But then she's like, "Oh my god, look how long his hair is! It's so nice to see him." Blah blah blah, and she just like basically ignores Lois. She barely talked to Lois at all.
right.
Once he got to them and like, "Don't talk about Allie." And then once the boys came home, that was that. Like she didn't have anything to do with Lois. And then Clark is like, "What the hell?" Like, what is
Yeah.
she doing here? And she's like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in forever." Blah 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 blah. I'm like, okay,
Okay, now I'm going back to the twins. Here's what I'm predicting. Is that Allie knows about the twins and she's going to try and use uh Lois's sister to at least get one
to get
of them.
Jonathan.
Oh, hi, Bizarro Superman. We've got twins, if you will, just like the boys here. Now she wants to take one of those. I'm willing to bet she wants to take one of them, and at least whichever one's willing to turn to the dark
So
side.
here's what I'm going to say, playing off of what you're looking for in this in prediction.
Hold on. I just thought of something.
Okay.
I literally just thought of this. Think of the football conversation that they had. The cringiest thing I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody has conversations like that in real life.
Oh, I want to hear all about your O line.
Yeah, I want to hear about the old line. Shut up! Nobody, people on ESPN don't even want to talk about the O line.
Right.
You do? Come on. Okay, here's the thing. She was focused on him.
Right.
Right? Now, think about where he is in his storyline and the fact that he and his brother are at an odds because he's doing that and getting his powers unnaturally.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got this tension between there. This aunt comes along and it's just basically his number one fan, and I could see him literally doing that and being taken by Allie. It's just my prediction.
Here's where I come off on that because I kind of had a similar idea. So she is obviously there to make her dad happy. She's talking to everybody. But then I think she's also looking for an angle on how to keep Lois and by keeping Lois, also Superman, out of their business. And the best way for them to do this would be to have a bargaining chip like Jonathan. And I think the idea is, oh, well, if we're going to take one, let's take the popular one. Not knowing that Jordan's the one with powers, they're gonna take Jonathan, thinking, oh well, he's the popular one, if there was any way, if we know that they don't know that they have powers, but they're going to take him thinking that he's not going to be able to defend himself against them and all that other crap, and then they're going to find out that he's got powers. And finding out that he has powers is going to screw them up because, not screw them up, but screw Superman up, because once they figure it out and and he explains to him how he has powers, because they're not going to explain it as, oh, I'm Superman's kid. He's going to explain to them that he's taking XK and that he's got powers. Then they're going to try to get him on their side, which will work and cause him to go bad, as it were. And then they'll have to deal with with Allie in that situation. But it's only going to be because Allie wants her pendant back. And when she realizes they have that pendant, she's going to force him to get him the pendant, because she's going to make Lois get Superman to do it for her, because obviously we know, but they don't. But
do you realize this is all over a piece of jewelry?
Yeah, it's all over a fucking purple pendant. But speaking of purple pendant, the purple pendant, obviously, like we said, I said last week that she has a version of the purple pendant in her world, and Allie has her version of the purple pendant in our world, or the Prime world, as it were. And I'm just going to refer to it as our world. And we now know that if the pendants come together, basically it will turn the bearer into give them the powers of a god. So to keep her from, and I'm assuming that the Allie of Mirror World has been trying to find a way to get to our world in order to do just that. And so she is, when he steals that, he comes to our world. And of course, it's the main, goal, obviously, of Agent General Anderson, to get Superman to be on his side. And he's getting flack from his superiors that says, look, Lang was in a relationship with Superman for, however many years it was, 20 years or whatever the hell it was. Obviously, we know it's because it's his son-in-law, but he's like, and we've never had any issues like this. You've taken over for 6 months, and look where we're at now. He's like, you need to get Superman on our side. And all of this was because they were at the funeral, which was that a flashback?
No. The funeral came after this.
No, I know, but was the funeral a flashback?
No.
They already had the funeral for those two. A couple episodes ago. They had the funeral for the two super kids.
I don't think so.
What was this funeral for? Yeah, I'm 100% positive that they did, because they showed them in the draped casket and everything.
I'm for certain that this episode, it was for them too, because it had their pictures at the casket, next to the caskets. So I'll
have to look back again, but either way, the girls, the super girl's daughter, mother who died, she was just giving Mr. Anderson the business. She was hardcore in his buttocks about. He's like, they were patriots, blah, blah. He's like, you shut up. You did this to them. This is your fault. You sent them to their doom.
It's not wrong.
And she just smacks him in the face and walks away. Superman's sitting there like, oop, that's a thing that just happened. And he wanted to, I'm pretty sure he wanted to grin. He just held it in because he's a little better than me. But, he was like, I need to talk to you. And then he's like, blah, 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 blah. Mr. Anderson's annoying. And Anderson ends up getting even more business by his superior at the funeral. He's like, you need to figure this out right now. Get it done. And out of that conversation and those interactions, when Superman told him what he knows, Anderson lost his ish. He's gone rogue, in my opinion.
Because Superman
his answer was, let's capture Superman.
Yeah, Superman told him, he's like, I've got him. I'm finding out information. And so Anderson takes that as him not giving the government the information.
Him betraying the government.
Which at the end of the episode, or during the football game, he gets called away, and he ends up going to the base. And Anderson, because Anderson tells him, that there's an issue, and he's like, there's no. Once he gets there, the red kryptonite things go on, the security thing comes on and traps him, and he's like, there was a security issue, but it wasn't him, it's you, and shoots him
Dude,
once.
let me tell
Shoots him
you.
once with kryptonite, and then hits him a second time before we close the credits.
Let me tell you this. Like the beginning of the episode, they did this weird intersplice thing where it was Bizarro Superman fighting his way into Allie Alston
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
the
they pulled an
pendant.
old boy.
And then at the end of this episode, you see Superman basically in the same exact fight. It's like they just reused the footage. It was so well like choreographed. Like the soldiers looked enough like Allie Alston's security forces to kind of look like the army, the general's army guys. Like I was just like, did we get a flash forward? What's happening? And I was like, oh, I see what they did.
Yeah,
It looked flawless. This is, I can tell you, there's parts of the show that I'm so impressed with sometimes, and I forget that it's CW and they fuck up all the time. But like this scene, the fight scenes were choreographed so well. And obviously it's the same guy doing the fight scene, so they just redid the fight scene. But it was like it was good.
It wasn't perfect because there were some moves in the first fight scene I was watching. I was like, okay. And then when I saw it again at the end of the episode, I kept waiting for a couple of different moves, and they didn't happen or didn't happen exactly the same. So yeah, it was for the most part, and it's what I call the old boy. I mean, it's the because it's exactly what they did in the original Old Boy, where you've got basically a side scroller video game, and you just see him just fighting every minion that comes up to him, naturally one at a time, just like in the video games.
They never attack all at the same time and overwhelm overwhelm.
No,
but I mean, even this is the kicker to it is obviously Superman has weaknesses. One, kryptonite. Just he loses his powers, and it causes him severe, like weakened and diminished abilities. But red sunlight just removes his superpowers. It doesn't actually stop him from doing whatever he wants. He just isn't aided by the superpower. But the kicker to it is, it doesn't like in the actual comic books. It doesn't just instantaneously like a light switch shut off his powers. Like it weakens him and he will continue to diminish in strength, but it doesn't happen like instantaneously. So even with that being said, he should have just beat the crap out of those guys and gotten out of there. But
he should have been able to use the speed to not only do that, but also to take down Anderson and break his gun in half. But no, I guess that would be too OP.
Yeah. So Anderson, for whatever reason, decided that the orders that he was given to make nice with Superman and get the information you need, because now that he has Superman, who's going to go get Bizarro? Because he's not going to tell him where he is.
Here's what's going to happen. We're going to forget about Bizarro for a second.
Okay.
And what's going to happen is they're sending him to where his brother is. Mm-hmm. The two of them are going to team up. They're going to get out. They're going to go with the help of Bizarro. They're going to end up getting destroying the medallion or whatever. Bizarro, I guess, it goes back to his own planet. I don't know what happens there, and then Superman's brother will end up flying off, and we won't see him again.
I think the more likely,
because he got his redemption.
I feel like the more likely situation is going to be that they're putting him in with his brother so that he'll talk to him, so that he'll reveal to them through conversation where he's hiding Bizarro, so they can try to go and get Bizarro. So here's my problem. They don't know what Superman knows about Bizarro. Superman knows that X-Kryptonite is his weakness, not his strength. So they're going to go in there and they're going to try to use red kryptonite or red sunlight on Bizarro, and it's not going to work. It's going to do the exact opposite, which I still don't understand, because in their world, they don't have a yellow sun. I don't think. Like, if it's supposed to be the exact opposite, they probably don't have a yellow sun. So if anything, he should be super powered when he gets hit with red sunlight, right? Because he's supposed to be the exact opposite of Superman.
I don't know how this shit works,
So
to be honest.
this is my problem. Like, they're gonna have to make sure they stick to their guns on how they're doing this, otherwise it's gonna come off chintzy. But I think that they're gonna use this time to spy on Superman and his brother, have a conversation, figure out where they've taken Bizarro, and then try to go get him, because Superman's never gonna tell him where Tal-Rho's Fortress of Solitude is. The only way that this could possibly go wrong is if they convince Tal-Rho that, hey, if you help us find this guy who he's hiding somewhere, you need to help us find where he is. We'll give you a lighter sentence or something. And Tal, being Tal, even though he's supposed to have this redemption arc, might be like, okay, I'll go for it. Question.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Did they ever? I don't remember, but what happened to Tal-Rho's little assistant, the chick?
Unanswered.
She's still just floating around out there, right?
Yep.
And she knows where Tal-Rho's Fortress of Solitude is. How is it she's not been involved in any of this at all?
Because the writers were hoping we forgot about it.
Well, I have not. Writers, do something. Do better. So Anderson, and I don't think he did any of this under the instruction or the permission of his superior officers. He's at the point now where he realizes his career is screwed unless he gets a W out of this. So he's pulling out all the stops, and he's going to do whatever the hell he wants to do it. So him taking Superman hostage, putting him on the red sunlight backboard and sliding him into a red sunlight transport vehicle, which they're going through a whole lot of extra steps that they didn't do with Tal-Rho. And they're taking him, to their black site to bury him with his brother at this point. So come next week, it's just going to be it's going to be a whole nother kind of cluster of just, here's a bunch of information that you need to know, because we're not going to actually tell you anything useful.
Yeah,
so
bunch of info dump that we
and
probably
with
don't
next
even
week's
care about.
episode being titled Anti-Hero, which we've already talked about, the fact that either Bizarro is going to be named as an anti-hero, which is going to drive me nuts, and I know it's going to piss you off. Even though I already told you it was going to happen. I knew it was coming. Sure enough, next week's episode, anti-hero. So we'll see what happens.
Or is it the brother? We'll find out. We'll find out next week.
That's actually a encouraging thought.
See?
Yeah,
see? And I had no idea what the name of next week's episode was. So we do want to thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. And on behalf of Vic,
that's me.
I'm Corey. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
See ya!